Hello. I had planned to vlog all day today, but that never happened. Which is kind of how my life goes. I always plan to do something and then it never turns out the way that I plan to do it. I have had the most fantastic day today. It was 77 degrees, clear skies, absolutely beautiful. And I had the best day. I got up and I slept until about noon and woke up and I was like, oh, I had like 8 hours of sleep. It was so good, 8.5 hours of sleep. And I got up and had a little coffee and did my prayers and meditations and stuff. And then I was like, you know what? I always wait. In my videos, I always get them up so late in the day. But I was like, I'm gonna get up and just make my videos like right away and get them done. And then as they're like uploading and stuff, I'm gonna go do all my other stuff. Because I typically I didn't even know that window was open. Because I'm always like doing other stuff and then make my videos. And so I just sat down and like filmed, boom, 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 my videos right away and started uploading them. Oh, I went and got a coffee first. And then I came back, filmed the videos after I got my coffee, and then I went and ran some errands. I stopped by Tanya's kennel, and we sat out on the front porch for a while and talked, and she had to work a little bit, so I sat out there and just kind of like in the sun, and I like looked at my phone and drank some water and all that kind of stuff. And then I was gonna film a video with Alex and his best friend tonight, but they went over to another friend of theirs from high school after Alex got off work, because he didn't get off till like 8 tonight. And so instead, because I was done, I really wanted to get like just some kind of like veggie sandwich or something. So I went to Whole Foods and I got their caprese sandwich and I got a little cup of tomato basil soup. And I came back and ate that. I had a little piece of jalapeno cornbread too. It was so good. And ate that. And I couldn't eat the whole sandwich, so I just wasn't that hungry. And then it was like 7 o'clock. Oh no. What time did they get off tonight? No, he got off at like 6 because I was home by 7 and I was eating, yeah. So anyway, when he called me and told me he was going over there. So I was like, I am so tired, and just kind of, it wasn't even tired, it was just, I was so relaxed, because I just kind of like ran around today and just kind of did fun stuff, you know, stopped in here, stopped in there, visited Tanya. I listened to my audiobook a lot today, right on the front porch for a while. It just was such a relaxing day. And so I lay down for about an hour and a half with the dogs, and I cannot explain what I mean by this other than just to say, do you ever have like the perfect temperature in the room, like when you're sleeping? Like, I don't like it too hot, and I tend to be somebody that likes to be cold when I sleep and cover up, but this was like perfect. This was like after you go to the pool on vacation and you come and you sleep in the hotel room for like take a nap, and then like when you get up, it was like sunny, but then when you get up, it's like dark outside. It was that, and it was perfect, and the room temperature was perfect, and the fan was perfect, and my head was perfect. Everything about my nap was perfect today. It was the perfect nap. And I got up, and then I was gonna do a live stream, and I was like, Tanya had texted me and asked me if I wanted to go get a fountain Coke and kind of drive around and talk and stuff, and I was like, yeah, sure. So we did that instead, and I just dropped her off a little bit, and it's about midnight. So I did some bills and stuff too today. And then the other thing that was interesting was, so anyway, it was just a fantastic day today. It was just a really enjoyable day, and tomorrow I don't have a whole lot to do. I have a meeting in the afternoon, and then we have our marriage counseling in the evening, and then Tanya and I are going to our meeting tomorrow night that we go to on Tuesday nights, and that's about it. And then I might do a live stream after that. We'll have to see. Depends. Alex and I are wanting to cement our vacation down tomorrow so that we can pick exactly which one we want to do. It was so funny. I was coming home, and one of my aunt's very, very best friends lives in my neighborhood, and she has ever since my mom lived there. And so she was asking me, she was like, she kind of pulled me over. She was walking with her dog, and she was like, I wanted to ask you how your uncle's doing. And so I was talking to her about that, and I was just sitting in my car, and we were talking so long that I finally pulled my car into the driveway because I was on the street, and we stood there and talked for like a half an hour. It was so fun talking to her, and I don't know her really, really well because she was more my aunt's friend than my mom's friend, but my mom knew her too. And I told her, I said, how long have you've been friends with my aunt for quite some time, right? She was like, Peter, I was a year behind your mom in high school. I was like, are you kidding me? She's like, no. So we started talking about that, and my mom's best friend Diane that lived on Beaver Island, and she was like, so her so-and-so married so-and-so, Diane so-and-so, and so she goes and visits them in Hawaii every year and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this is so smart. She's like, your mom knew all that stuff. She's like, your mom and I used to walk in the neighborhood sometimes together and stuff. And I was like, I didn't know this. I always thought you were more of my aunt's friend. She's like, no. And she was like, but I knew your mom and Kathy all the way back from high school. She's like, I think I was 13 when I met your mom, and she was like going into her freshman year in high school, and I was in 8th grade, and we lived very in the same neighborhood. And she said that I just was friends with them all through high school, and then I went to 1 year at IU and transferred, and she was like, so I still knew your mom and Kathy at IU. And I was like, this is crazy. And I said, okay, so let me ask you a question. Now, for those of you that are just new to my channel and you haven't heard this story, and so many people recently have been asking me to tell the story. So I found out a year after my mom passed away, which I'm 2 weeks away from the 10-year anniversary. It's very bizarre for me. I don't know why, of my mom's passing, but I found out a year after. I was at my dad's house, and I was like, did mom have any secrets that she passed away with, that she didn't want anybody to know? And he was like, no, not really. He was like, well, this one thing, and he was like, but she didn't want me to tell you, but now that she's gone, I think it would make sense to you. And I was like, okay, what is it? And he was like, your grandma went to prison. And I was like, what do you mean my grandma went to prison? And he was like, your grandma went to prison for embezzlement. I was like, are you kidding me? And he was like, no. He was like, your mom never wanted anybody to know. And my dad was really close with my grandma too. And so I'll just give the short story of it tonight. I couldn't confirm it with my dad, but I called my cousin Caroline. I was like, oh my God. And we were like, this makes so much sense, about how they are, or how they were. And so my mom and my aunt always talked about being fostered out and having to go live with other people when they were very, very small, I don't know, 3 and 4. And my mom's dad died of lung cancer when my mom was 4 years old and my aunt was 6. And so my grandmother was a single mother her whole life. She was married for a while to my mom's stepfather, who was not a nice person. And so anyway, Caroline and I couldn't put 2 and 2 together, and I just assumed that maybe that's when my grandma went to prison, was when my mom was younger, because she had to go live with, they weren't fostered out to my aunt said foster care, but she said it was different back then, Peter. If you had family members that could take you, they would take you in. And that was state law, that if family members could take you, something she was saying, that if family members, she's like, so we would go live with other family members and their aunts and uncles. And so anyway, well, I had lunch with my aunt right after that, and I said, what's this whole deal with grandma going to prison and you being fostered? She's like, well, first of all, your dad should never have told you that. You guys don't need to know that. And I was like, what do you mean we don't need to know that? It's part of our history. And she's like, no, you didn't need to know that. And we never wanted you to look down on grandma. And I was like, well, I don't look down on grandma for the fact that she went to prison. I don't understand it because I don't know the story, And I was like, just like I don't know the story about you guys being fostered out. And she's like, what do you mean fostered out? You keep on saying fostered out. And I was like, well, mom would say that you guys were fostered out to family. She goes, no, we were in foster care. she was like, your mom, that was the word that she used because she just couldn't really grasp the fact of what it really was. And so I said, well, what do you mean? And she was like, so that's when she explained. She said, she always called their dad daddy, and she was like, mother and daddy like were very, very poor, and they couldn't afford to have more than a 1-bedroom apartment, and so like their bed was in the living room, and a lot of the apartments that they could rent, you weren't allowed to have kids. So in the summer they would pay for a place that had 2 bedrooms in during the school year, but in the summers they would go and stay in a smaller apartment, and then we would go and stay with our aunts and uncles, which is so weird because this couple came to my aunt's funeral, this brother and sister, and they were like, we were friends with your mom and aunt, like we used to spend every summer with them, and I didn't even like connect it, then Caroline and I were talking like a couple weeks ago, and like I connected the whole thing about these people. They're very nice. They were like, we're gonna miss them so much, like we just remember our summers with them when we were kids, and I don't know, it's so weird. I almost kind of wondered to some degree if that's what my mom loved the To Kill a Mockingbird story so much, with like Dill coming to visit, because it's very similar, But, so I said, okay, so you guys went and lived with these families, whatever, but then is that when Grandma was in prison? She was like, no. And I go, well, when was Grandma in prison? And she was like your mom's senior year in high school, the 2nd semester, and then like into college. And I go, well, who is in charge of my mom? And she looked at me and she goes, I was. And I go, what? Okay, so this makes so much sense because my mom and my aunt always had this very kind of like love-hate relationship. And I mean, they were very, very close, but at times, like my aunt would even say, like, if your mother wasn't my sister, she wouldn't be in my life. And they fought horribly, right? And, but like when my mom passed away, like my aunt couldn't even leave the room. Like she wanted to sleep in the hospital in the morgue with my mother because she was like, I cannot leave her. Like I'm supposed to take care of her. And she always told me that like my grandma would say to her, like you have to take care of your sister, don't ever, you're in charge of her. But I thought it was just like how any other brother or sister would be told by their parent. I didn't mean think it meant like, well, I'm going to prison, so you're in charge of your sister. You know what I mean? So apparently my aunt was in charge of my sister, or my aunt was in charge of my mom, and so then my mom had said that she had never been to Miami, Florida. Now I talked about this on the vlogs too, and I think that the reason why she covered up going to Miami was that if she said she had gone to Miami, she would have had to have told me the story about how they afforded it, and I just don't think she wanted to tell me anything about it. And so I found these pictures, and it was like my aunt and my mom and these 2 guys, and they were on the beach in bathing suits, and they were standing in front of the Delano Hotel, and it had just opened. And on the back of it, it said like 1961, the Delano, blah, 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 saw the Beatles or something like that. And I was like, what? This is crazy, So I asked my aunt, I was like, did you guys like go to Miami or something? And she was like, yeah. She was like, how did you find out about that? And I was like, because I found all these pictures from that summer, because it had like the date on it. It was like June 1961. I said, how did you, and I go, how long were you guys in Miami for? And she was like 2 or 3 months. I said, you were in Miami for 2 or 3 months? And she said, yeah. And I said, like, staying where? And she was like, we stayed at that hotel. And I was like, you stayed in a hotel for Miami for 2 to 3 months. I said, how did you afford it? She goes, I don't know, Peter, probably on Grandma's embezzled money. And I was like, so you guys had access to that money? And she's like, we must have. She was like, I don't really remember, to be honest with you. She was like, but I know that we both had new cars and, whatever. And, so, I don't know, it's just very weird. And my grandma felt so bad, or my aunt always felt so bad about it after that. And she'd say, Grandma worked her whole life. Everything that she did for your mom and I. And we didn't treat her nice always. And I think we were resentful about what had happened. And, but then, and my grandma, like, was, honest to God, like the greatest grandma in the entire world. Like, I mean, it's hard for me to conceptualize this, except that my grandma was kind of hard around the edges a little bit. Like, my mom used to always say that, like, grandma was like a man's woman. Like, she liked to talk business and numbers, and she liked to play cards. And she was a teetotaler. She never drank. She hated alcohol. But we found out that my grandfather was the head bartender for this bar that just reopened. It's called the Thunderbird in Fountain Square, in Indianapolis. And it was like the very first big bar here, and my grandfather was like the head bartender there, and we found his liquor license and everything. And I'm sure nobody ever said that he had a drinking problem, probably because they were too young and they don't know, but I'm sure that's where, like, my mom and I got the alcoholic gene from, if we got that, which I believe we did. So anyway, but then when we were over at Caroline's house, or my aunt and uncle's house, after my aunt passed away, like the next day, getting stuff ready for the funeral and putting pictures together and going through pictures, we were sitting there. That's on my vlog, actually, from January of 2017. It's like I vlogged that whole thing, being over there. And like Alex and myself and Caroline and two of her friends were over there, and then Caroline's cousin from my uncle's side was there, Shannon, who we're like all really close because Shannon has one brother and Caroline and I are only children, so the four of us were kind of raised like all like cousins, even though they just are. But Caroline's my only cousin on this side of the family. And so we were there, and I was telling the story about Grandma, and I was like, can you just believe this, blah, 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 whatever. And Caroline's friends were like intrigued. Well, Shannon walked downstairs while I was telling the story, and she was like, I remember that. She was like, I remember that we knew that, and we weren't supposed to say anything to you. And I said, no, Shannon, I said something. She goes, I remember when that happened because we knew, and I said, no, it didn't happen while you were alive. Shannon's like the same age as Caroline, so she's 3 years older than me. And I was like, it didn't happen while we were alive. It happened like when my mom was like a senior in high school going into college. And Shannon was like, no. She was like, Caroline and I were like 7 or 8 when she went to prison. And Caroline looked at me and she goes, did she go twice? And then Caroline was like, I do kind of remember her like leaving. Well, my grandma took us to this movie, Raggedy Ann and Andy, which I just read for my BookTube channel, the book adaptation. And I just remember that day, like, vividly. And Caroline and I talked about it later, about, like, I remember, going to this movie and Grandma kind of being like, I'm not going to see you guys for a while. And that must have been, like, and when that happened. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's just so bizarre to me, And I've asked my dad more, and he's like, he just acts like he doesn't know. I honestly think that after my aunt found out that my dad told me, I think she called him and ripped him a new ass and was like, you did not need to tell Peter that. Like, he did not need to know that. But, I don't understand what the whole thing is about keeping family secrets. Like, I really do not understand it. Like, why people do that. I think it helps. I don't need to know everything about my mom's life, or my grandma's life, or my aunt's life. But I think that things like that really help us understand our family dynamics, And Caroline and I have talked so many times about how much it really makes sense, like our mom's interactions, So, it's interesting. I was just talking to Caroline about it, or Tanya about it tonight, because my neighbor had said something about it. We were talking. Oh, this is what she said. She was like, going back to how I started this whole story. So when I was talking to my neighbor, I said, did you know about my grandma going to prison? And she was like, what do you mean, do I know about that? And I was like, did you know that my grandma went to prison? She was like, I was there for it. And I was like, what? And she was like, I was there for it. She was like, I mean, I was friends with your mom and your aunt when it happened. She was like, yeah, I remember. And I was like, well, do you know what happened with it? And she was like, your grandma was a bookkeeper, and she was stealing money from the company that she was working for. And she stole quite a bit of money. My grandma was a con. So anyway, I kind of thought about telling this story on my main channel and doing it as a story time. Do you guys think I should do that? illegal behavior, but, you know, looking back on that, I think here was a woman that probably didn't know what else to do, you know? I've known a couple women like that, actually, in my life, you know, that were stealing from where they worked from, you know? Because they didn't know how else to, like, pay the bills, and, you know, they would already have 2 jobs, and they'd be like, it just isn't enough, and I don't know what else to do, and, you know, then they get arrested, and it's sad. It's just very sad, you know. But that's kind of where I joke about how, like, I always thought, like, my grandma had been a dealer in Vegas because she could shuffle cards like, I mean, my grandma could shuffle cards like nobody's business. She could do shuffling tricks like unbelievable. Well, she sat in prison, probably played cards and drank Cokes all day long or something. I don't know. She loved Coke. She drank Coke like it was going out of style. And I mean, my God, she smoked 15 packs of cigarettes a day, Salem Light. She probably just back in the day could probably smoke in jail. My grandma probably just sat up in prison, smoked cigarettes, drank little Cokes, and played cards all day long. One of the things that's interesting is that, like I have very few memories of my grandma. I can just totally see her in my head. I would love to know the real story. I would, like, love to know the real story of what really went down. But, oh, Tanya said to me at night, she's like, you can find that stuff on the internet. I was like, no, we've looked. It's not there. I mean, we've done some deep investigations, and it's not there. And, but I remember my grandma, like, always wearing, like, a short sleeve blouse and pants. Very few times do I remember her wearing a dress. I mean, she's kind of a tough broad a little bit, you know? She didn't take shit from anybody, I'll tell you that much. She had a lip on her. I wonder what my grandma would think of all of this today, you know, of, like, me making videos. She wouldn't even get it, I don't think, but, like, it's been so long. God. I was 12 when my grandma passed away. That yellow light came on always right at 22 minutes. It's weird when your entire story dies out, you know, like, my mom's gone, my aunt's gone, my grandma's gone, all of their relatives are gone, you know, except for these cousins that I met at my aunt's funeral, which we don't even know who those people are, but everybody's gone. You know, my aunt was the last one on that side, like, of aunts and uncles, grandparents. I mean, my aunt was the last one, and now it's just Caroline and I, and Caroline could care less about the history. She has no interest in the history whatsoever. I mean, like, if we're talking about it on the phone, she's like, yeah, I'd kind of like to know, which she shocked me because we didn't know. We knew the cemetery where our grandma was buried, but we didn't remember where the gravestone was. And so one day Caroline texted me this map, and I'm like, or she texted me and she's like, I just emailed you a map. And I was like, what is this? And I opened this map and it was the cemetery. And she's like, this is where grandma's gravestone is if you ever want to go out there. And she's like, I went out there today and they just give you a map, they just circle it. And I was like, did you really? She was like, yeah, I just wanted to see it. And my cousin was really, really close with my grandma. I guess I was 13 when she passed away because Caroline was driving, so she would have been 16. And Caroline cleaned her apartment for her once a week. And I remember that, like, she had to go over there and, like, pick out an outfit or something for my grandma, and she was really upset about it. And it just was really hard for my cousin, I remember back then. And I remember somebody, like my mom or somebody, saying that Caroline used to go out to the gravestone and just sit there and talk to her. I've never got much. I mean, I like cemeteries. There's something about them that I like. But I don't get much out of them. Alex and I went to Crown Hill Cemetery in Indianapolis one day because we were going to do a photo shoot. I've never shared this story, actually, but I have a picture of it. I should show it in a video. Although, what's the point? Because nobody believes anything that you show them, right? But Alex and I went to Crown Hill Cemetery, which is like a real famous cemetery in Indianapolis. It's where like all the famous people are buried and stuff, and it's a gorgeous cemetery. And we were out there one day, and I took a picture of him like in front of this tree, and behind it, like right behind him, right here, is this white cross. It looks like a light blur in the picture. If I remember tomorrow, I'll like pull the picture because I have it on Facebook somewhere. I don't think I have it in my phone anymore because I took it on the camera and then uploaded it to the computer and then I posted it on Facebook. And Alex was like, no, he was like, that's just like the sky or the sun, or because he doesn't believe in any of that kind of stuff. I'm like, no, it's not. That is straight up a spirit in the cemetery. I'm not stupid. When you see, I mean, it is straight up a cross right behind him. A cross. It's like that. It's crazy. And it's like literally, if he's like where I am, it's like right here. It's so bizarre. Do you think you have to believe in that stuff to see it? Like, do you know what I mean? Tanya and I were talking about UFOs tonight because we kept on seeing all this stuff in the sky. And I said, Tanya, I think those are UFOs. And she said, do you believe in UFOs? I said, of course I believe in UFOs. And we've had this conversation a million times. I said, what if those are UFOs and they're taking over the entire world, and tomorrow, like when we wake up, like the world's a different place because it's been taken over by UFOs? She said, I don't think aliens would like me very much. It just turned off on my great story. So I don't know how much of that kept at the end, and I didn't let my camera cool off too much because I didn't want to forget. But Tanya and I were driving around and talking about aliens, and she said, I don't think aliens would like me very much. I said, oh, Tanya. She was being all negative tonight. She goes, what? You're always so positive. Let me have one day. I was like, okay, girl. The aliens won't like you. Speaking of random acts of kindness, I don't know why I was just thinking about that when it was like the camera was cooling down, because do you guys remember when I was talking about random acts of kindness like 6 months ago, and I was saying every day we should do like one kind act and put it out there? And you know, I did a video on my Peterisms channel about a week ago where I was talking about that, and I was talking about like, you know, random things that make people happy and make their day and all this kind of stuff. And so I've really consciously been thinking about it. Like, what are conscious ways that I can, you know, really, something that would really make somebody's day? And one of the things is that I have been so blessed that a lot of YouTubers have mentioned me in their videos, mostly positive. I mean, I've gotten, you know, let's just not go there. But I mean, I've had a lot of really positive shout outs from YouTubers like Trisha Paytas and Shane Dawson and, you know, other people out there that have been just super nice to me, and I really appreciate it. And so I want to just do the same thing. And there is a vlogger that I absolutely adore, and she sent me some lights like a year ago. I don't know if you remember Letty Gordon, but she sent me some lights like a year ago and basically changed the scene of the Peter Monn channel from shitty lighting to better lighting, which now is upgraded because my husband bought me a ring light. So I don't always use her lights anymore. Sometimes I just use the ring light. But if it's sunny outside, I usually use all 3 lights because it doesn't shadow back. But I still watch her vlogs regularly, and I adore her. And I just, you know, the reason I got into vlogging was because I like to watch somebody just kind of talk about their life, show their life, and all this kind of stuff. And there was a moment, I think it was like about 2 months ago, when Letty talked about her dog being sick and passing away. And it just really, really struck a chord with me. Her just absolute authenticity and being genuine, talking about it. And she is a smaller channel. I've shouted her out before, and I'm going to shout her out tonight, and I'm going to ask you guys, I'm literally going to beg you guys to make her day and go subscribe to her channel. I'm going to link below. It'll be the first thing that you go see. If you like my vlogs, you will love her vlogs. We're very similar in what we do. She shows her cabin, which is gorgeous, and she just shows her life, and she talks while she's driving, and we're very similar in kind of the things we talk about in life and whatever. And I just think she's such a kindred soul, and I, you know, from the bottom of my heart, I adore this woman. I think she's just a person that gives constantly, and she makes her videos just because she loves to vlog. And I would love to, you know, expose her to other people. I don't want to do an exposed video, but, you know, I want to expose her to other people, and I think you guys would love her. And, you know, for me, I subscribe to people all the time just to make their numbers go up, especially smaller YouTubers, because I know when I was a smaller YouTuber how much it meant to me, and still does, to just see that number creep up, even if it's, you know, 2 a day or 10 a week or whatever. You know, that's how it was for me on BookTube. I can remember, like, every time I would, like, go up 2 or 3, I'd be like, oh my God, there's like 2 or 3 more. Who are they? Who are those people watching me, you know? So go follow Letty. I will leave her vlog channel below. She's fantastic. She is just, you know, she's a little bit older than I am, but not much older than I am. And, you know, I think one of the things I love on YouTube, like I was saying, is that there are people of all, you know, different ages and everything. And I just love that she's just kept her gig going for so long and hasn't, you know, given it up yet. I think it's fantastic, and I always learn something from every vlog of hers. So go check her out. She's very real. She's very, very real. So Letty, if you're watching this, I love you, dear, and I will link her channel below. Please go follow it. And I want to start, you know, maybe like every day on this vlog, I don't know, thinking of one thing that we can do that's free, that all of us can collectively do if we want to. You don't have to. I know there's a lot of bitter people that watch my channel. And I don't mean the people that love me and love my channel. I'm talking about the bitter people that don't love me. So y'all probably don't want to do something nice, and that's okay. Live in your misery. But for those of us that are here that like to do something positive on a daily basis, I'd like to think of something that's free and doesn't take a whole lot, you know, to just brighten somebody's day. And then we don't have the excuse that we can say, well, I don't have the money for this or can't afford that. You know what I mean? Like, we can there's always something that all of us can do. So today, our little random act of free kindness is to go and give Letty some love and let her know I sent you, by the way. And tomorrow I'll think of something else. What will it be? Oh my gosh, now I have to think of something every day. Because it can't be like buying coffee for somebody. It has to be free. But I think that that's the thing, you know, is that we have so many, kindness and compassion doesn't have to cost a thing. You know what I mean? We can be kind and compassionate to people without it costing a damn thing. And so I'm going to come up with some of those ideas, and if you have suggestions, please put it in the comment section below, and maybe I'll share. Maybe you guys will have better ideas than I do. You know, I would love to hear some of your ideas. Put in the comment section below free things that you think that we can do that are random acts of kindness for people. So, and then I'm going to get off here a little early today. I want to listen to my audiobook, and I'm really into this book, Leon the Offbeat, by Becky Albertalli. It's not my favorite book I've ever listened to, but I'm kind of intrigued by the story right now. So it's the sequel to Love, Simon, or Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, but it's about his best friend Leah. So it's interesting. Anyway, so this is a little bit of a shorter vlog tonight. What do you think about that? What do you think about them apples? That's one of my favorite lines from, what's that movie called? Oh, shoot, with Matt Damon. Why can't I think? It's on the tip of my tongue. With Robin Williams. People always say that. I remind them of him. Robin Williams and Matt Damon. What is that movie called? You know I'm going to look it up as soon as I get done here. Go, put it in the comment section below if you know what movie I'm talking about. When he puts that piece of paper up there and he got her number and he goes, what do you think about them apples? What do you think about them apples? I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Go follow Letty's channel. I love you. Bye.